Hi everyone, I'm Amber, and in light of some recent posts that I've seen about Disney impersonations, I figured I would create a little clip to maybe help someone that could be struggling with it. I am by no means an expert, so I'm sure people will have constructive criticism for me too. I just figured that maybe I could give some of my own insight that might help someone else become successful. Not every business has multiple girls that they can specifically play each role and go send them out to parties. There are a lot of people that have to play multiple roles by themselves, and they need to know how to change their voice to really be into that character, and not only that, but hand gestures as well. So hopefully this information will be able to help you all become a little bit more successful. So first off, I'm going to categorize the princesses in 3 different sections. You have either your stern, confident princesses, and those are going to be Moana, Mulan, Pocahontas, Merida, Elsa. And then you have your high-spirited, high-energy princesses, full of life and just energy. Snow White, Ariel, Rapunzel, Anna. And then you have your classic princesses, which are going to be Aurora, Cinderella, Belle. So let's start with hand gestures first. When you're playing a confident role, I see them cross their arms a lot. They also put their hands on their hips a lot. I know Moana, she has her famous move that she does. Elsa, she's very like frozen fractals, and she's very, sharp with her movements because she's got frozen powers and she doesn't care who knows. She wants to let it show and let it go. So just make sure that when you're playing those roles that you show that confidence, because they are brave. They are sure of themselves. They know who they are, and they don't care who knows about it. So I know it can be intimidating when you walk into a party and all eyes are on you, and maybe you don't have cold feet, but you're not so sure how to let loose into that role because everyone's watching you. So just keep in mind that when you play a confident role like that, shoulders back, chest out, chin up, and that you are who you are, and you're not afraid of anybody that shows it because you are in charge. So keep that in mind. When you're playing a high-spirited, high-energy character, for example, Anna and Rapunzel, they've had no exposure. They've been cooped up forever, and they're just seeing things for the first time. Everything's new to them, so everything's exciting. So, and they're full of emotion. Rapunzel's like, oh, my mom's gonna kill me. And then the very next second, she's like, this is the best day ever. And Anna's the same way. She's like, oh, it's coronation day. So you have to really see that, they get excited about everything. They're not just sitting there with the kids being like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. They're like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. So they're really energetic with that. Where the classical princesses are very soft-spoken. They're very sweet. They're very elegant with their hands. They move their hands softer and slower, and they pose with such grace. And they put their hands over one another. So just keep that in mind when you're playing those princesses, to be really soft. Now, as far as voices go, Elsa and the classical princesses are going to have a lower tone. So instead of being flatline like Anna would be, the window is open, so is that door. I didn't know they did that anymore. You can hear how it's flat. Where the other princesses are going to have more of a falsetto. So instead of it being flat, it's going to be, ah, I know you, I've walked with you once upon a dream. So you can hear the falsetto in there. You have to use your diaphragm because those tones are going to go a little bit lower than the higher, high energy princesses. Same thing with Belle. When you're using her voice, try to emphasize the words using your diaphragm, not just saying things, for example, like, I'm so excited that we were able to read a book. I just love reading books with Chip and the Beast, and Mrs. Potts made us tea too. It's sweet, but really use your diaphragm to push out those words like, oh, I just love reading books. I read a book with the Beast and with Chip, and Mrs. Potts, she made us tea. So you can see how it's like, oh my. She really pushes and emphasizes those words. And with Aurora, it's lower too. She kind of sounds a little bit like this in the same sense, where, oh, I know you. We've met once before. So you can kind of see the similarities between the classical princesses and the falsetto. They start off on a lower tone. Same thing with Elsa. I strongly suggest that you start lower than going at a higher tone when you start off the song, because when you get to the end, you want to gradually hit that high note. And unless you're Ariana Grande or Mariah Carey and you can hit that note, I strongly suggest that you start off lower. So instead of going, snow glows white on the mountain night, not a footprint to be seen, a kingdom of isolation, and it looks like I'm the queen. Start lower, going, snow glows white on the mountain night, not a footprint to be seen, a kingdom of isolation, and it looks like I'm the queen. So you can kind of hear how it's a little bit lower, but it will help you because it's gonna get higher of a pitch, and when you go to that very ending, then you won't be screeching, you'll be in tune. Ariel, she's another character that I truly, truly love. She's got high energy because she's very young and she's just so in love with this world that she's unable to explore. And her song is dragged out. She elongates each of her words. For example, I don't know when, I don't know how, but I know something's starting right now. So you can see how she really drags that out. Snow White, she's also a high energy young princess that I categorize in that specific area. She has a higher pitched voice. So you know sometimes when you're nasally and you're congested and you feel like you have a cold, you can feel it right in here, and sometimes it even has a bump. She has a really good falsetto. So instead of her falsetto being like, ah, hers is gonna be, ah. So you can hear how she's got the bumps, but it's a much higher pitch. So you really have to use your throat on this one. And when you talk, it's not just that you're talking with a really high pitch like this. You have to remember that she has a soft voice, so you have to add a whisper into it. And then it's going to sound something a little bit more like, do you want to hear a secret? You promise not to tell? We are standing by a wishing well. So you can hear how it's a little bit softer. So keep that in mind, that when you're using her voice and you're using your throat, and sometimes it might even help to do this, you're not using your diaphragm as much because it's not as deep. But when you practice her voice, also add a whisper to it. Hopefully these little things might help you to really focus on each role, the hand gestures and how to act, how to pose for pictures, and how to change your voice and how to sing. So if you have any advice, any tips, I would love to hear it. And thank you so much for listening. Bye, y'all.